Welcome back to Passport to Possibility. If you've seen our recent episodes on the UK rule changes, the US immigrant visa freeze, and new African programs like Sao Tome and Principe, you know the global citizenship landscape is shifting. Today, we're bringing the focus back to somewhere very close to home for us, the Caribbean. A lot has changed in the last 12 to 18 months across the main Caribbean citizenship by investment programs, and Jennifer's been working on these files for almost a decade, for the majority of her time living right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. If you want to stay on top of these changes, don't forget to subscribe so you get our future updates on citizenship by investment, residency, and descent. Let's get into it. Jennifer, let's start at the top. When people say Caribbean CBI has changed, what do they actually mean in 2026?
The short answer is that the programs are still very much alive, but they've become more mature and more regulated. Minimum investments have gone up, due diligence is tougher, and the rules around which real estate projects qualify are more structured. St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, and Dominica have all updated their frameworks recently, and the focus is now on applicant quality and long-term reputation, rather than chasing volume with discounts. And for serious families, that's usually a positive shift.
Right, so CBI hasn't gone away. If anything, it's grown up and become more serious and better protected. Okay. What's driving that shift? Is it mainly pressure from larger countries?
International pressure is part of it, concerns around security, money laundering, and visa-free travel. But Caribbean governments themselves recognize the need to protect their programs. By raising standards and harmonizing some rules, they're trying to preserve long-term relationships with partners like the EU and UK, and to ensure their programs are seen as credible, not risky.
Right, so there's outside pressure, but there's also self-interest. The region wants these programs to be sustainable, not short-lived. Okay. Give us a quick real-world snapshot of how the 5 main programs look today.
St. Kitts and Nevis is the veteran and leans into the premium positioning, higher minimums and very serious due diligence. St. Lucia offers a strong government bond option route and some flexibility through other options, so it's attractive to people who like a clear contribution structure. And then Antigua and Barbuda often make sense for larger families because of how they price dependence, and there's a light physical presence requirement. And Grenada, which we talk about in a separate episode, adds the E2 treaty investor angle with the US. And Dominica, which we featured in a recent newsletter, so we have a newsletter, Passport to Possibility, remains straightforward. It's a choice between the Economic Diversification Fund and approved real estate. And it's a country that has a very strong nature island identity.
So each Caribbean nation has its own flavor, be it premium, family-friendly, flexible, nature-driven, or US link, rather than being interchangeable. Are applications taking longer now? And what should people expect from due diligence?
So in some cases, processing has been much longer because the checks are deeper and there's more coordination with international partners, and well-prepared applications still move within a reasonable time frame, but instant citizenship is not the model. The fastest citizenship program in the Caribbean at the moment in early 2026 is currently St. Kitts and Nevis, and the slowest is probably St. Lucia and Antigua and Barbuda. So due diligence now routinely includes multiple database checks, independent background verification, and in some cases closer review of the source of funds that the client is using to utilize for the investment. And it's more thorough, and the thoroughness protects the program and you as a future citizen.
Right, so you trade a little bit of time, a little more time and paperwork for greater security and reputational protection. That's the new reality. How are your clients using Caribbean citizenship by investment differently now compared to, say, 5 years ago?
Most are using it as one layer of a larger strategy. A typical plan might combine a Caribbean citizenship for mobility, EU citizenship by descent for long-term rights in Europe, and possibly a residency by investment or an emerging African option for diversification. They also understand better that the Caribbean passport isn't a shortcut to US immigration. It's about mobility, optionality, and additional legal home base. That makes for better, more sustainable planning. We're also seeing more clients who wish to relocate to the Caribbean and spend meaningful time in the country, such as yourself.
So it's less buy a passport, job done, and more build a portfolio of rights with CBI as one important piece. What misconceptions do you still see relating to Caribbean CBI, but you'd like to clear up?
One is that all Caribbean programs are identical, and they're really not. Each has its own structure, pricing, family rules, and feel on the ground. Another is that the process is fully anonymous or casual. In reality, the checks are rigorous, and you need to be comfortable with this level of scrutiny. There's also a misconception that CBI is always the best answer, and for some people, ancestry or a residency route or another route may be more appropriate. And so good advice means being willing to say citizenship by investment isn't right for you right now.
Right, so choosing a program and even choosing CBI at all, it means nuance. It's not a one-size-fits-all shortcut. Okay, for someone who's watching and who's interested but unsure where to start, what does working with you actually look like?
We begin with a detailed conversation about a client's current citizenships, where they've lived and worked, your family, businesses, and tax profile. Then we test each program against that reality. And because I myself live in St. Kitts and Nevis and have visited each of these countries many times, I can speak to both the laws, rules, and regulations and the practical experience on the ground. The goal is a tailored, lawful plan rather than a generic product.
Right, so it starts with mapping your real life, then matching that to the right program instead of forcing everyone into the same box. Okay. So Caribbean citizenship, it's still here, but it's more grown up and more selective than it used to be. If you're trying to decide which program makes sense for you, you'll find Jennifer's contact details in the description. We've already filmed an episode on Grenada and the E2 treaty investor angle, and we'll also be covering new African options and EU citizenship by descent. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss those, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Heather.